And welcome to another edition of the Double A Team. I'm your host, Stephen Negishi. You're probably aware, looking and wondering, where is your other co-host, Ken Fang from the Awful Announcing? Well, tonight, Ken is off for personal reasons, which we will get to at the end of the show in detail for you to explain. I know we said it was going to come on around 7:30. Sorry, it took a little bit to get to the show, but I appreciate all of you for joining once again to another edition of the Double A Team. And more importantly, I appreciate your patience if you've been waiting for a while. On the show tonight, if you saw the graphic put together by Aldo, rising pro boxer Brandun Lee, he will join us very, very shortly in a few minutes. And then we're also interviewing Pranav Iyer, who is the founder of a AMAZN headquarters, HQ, or I should say, which is a specific sports website that is dedicated to covering Asian American athletes in both high school and in the NCAA level. So we are very, very excited to have both gentlemen on our show tonight. And I want to apologize to both of them in advance. Obviously, I'm going solo. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you, but I will prowl through tonight. And more importantly, I hope, all of you will enjoy the show tonight. So let's see. If Brandon is available, we're ready to rock and roll right now. Although all right. Thank you so much for joining us. And joining us is one of the rising boxing prospect in the world. He represents our AAPI community proud. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Brandun Lee. How you doing, Brandon?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you so much. Before we go, I want to thank your PR executive, Steve Pratt, for help setting us this interview, because I know we went through back and forth about the dates and time, but and I know you're very, very busy with the training and everything. So I want to thank you for your time tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. Yes.
I really, really appreciate it. So sorry about that.
I'm sorry. 1 second. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
So sorry about that. So sorry. Wait, can you hear me?
No problem, Brandon. Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, I had it on mute just to make sure that I wasn't listening to your conversation there. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, all right, let's get to it. You were born between a Mexican mother and a Korean father.
That is correct. Yes. Yep.
Wow. So what was it like for you growing up, obviously having an Asian father and a Mexican mother? What was it like, the dynamics of, growing, multiracial?
To be honest, I didn't see much of a difference. I just thought I was like any other kid. Of course, growing up, I looked 100% Asian. So, of course, the little comments I got from time to time, but overall, I got along with everyone.
Oh, that's good to know, especially the anti-Asian racism that has spiked in this country since the pandemic has happened, which we will get to in a little bit later as we go along. But tell us about your boxing history. When did you start boxing, and how did it really kind of started for you?
I started boxing at the age of 6 years old, and I started boxing because of my older brother, my uncles, and my grandfather.
Mm-hmm. And so you were kind of like influenced by what they were doing, not what you were like forced or coerced into doing.
Absolutely. At the time, I wanted to be just like my older brother,
Ah, okay. Which your older brother Johnny, I believe, is
John.
your John. My apologies. He is a part of your team. He's a trainer as well, right? You're along with your.
Um, he's not part of the trainer, but of course he's part of the team. He's welcome to my camp anytime, and once in a while he'll drop in and he'll hold the medicine ball and do some workouts with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was it like to have a father as your trainer? Because
Mm.
we all know the history of athletes where we hear horror stories of parents being so overbearing and stuff like that. Maybe in like in other sports where parents wild themselves out at the a little league baseball game or basketball games, which turn violent. Which I'm sure you might have seen from time to time. What was it like? You having your parents guide you through through those days.
It was great because no one's gonna care for me the way my father cares for me, and at the gym, my father's my coach, and at the house, my father's my father.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great to know. Having a Mexican mother, we all know Mexicans are very, very passionate about fighting. Did your mother kind of, was she like a big fight fan, or was she a little bit, like I don't want my son getting hit like that?
To this day, she she doesn't want me to get hit, but this is boxing. I'm gonna get hit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, she's a huge boxing fan, but at the same time, I'm her baby.
I understand mother's love right
Yeah,
there. We're
exactly.
talking with Brandun Lee, a rising boxing prospect and a future champion with us on the AA team tonight. Ken Fang is off for personal reasons. I'm going solo here tonight. Brandon, when did you become a pro?
I turned pro in 2007 or 2016, I
Oh,
believe.
okay. So about
No,
6 years ago, 5, 6 years ago then.
no, I turned pro in 2017.
Oh, okay. So about 5 years ago.
Yep, 5 years ago, correct.
Okay. Were you in high school still then, or we just
Yeah,
finished up high school?
yeah, I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. When did you know that you were ready to become like a pro?
Man, probably like 13, 14 years old is when I started knocking people out and doing
Mhm.
very well. I mean, I've done well since since I've started, but I think 13 or 14 is when I started, really dominating and knocking people out.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. Do you remember your very first pro fight?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I know it sounds like an amateurish question, but do you get nervous, when you go on the ring, whether it's your first pro debut or even your last fight back in April? Do you still get like this nervous energy butterfly still?
No, I don't get nervous. It's more like I'm anxious. I can't wait to go out there and give the fans a great show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you consider you have an impressive record, 25 wins, zero losses, I believe 22 KOs. That's almost like a 90% KO rate. Um, when you go out on the ring, or at least leading up to the fight, do you kind of determine like, okay, I can knock this guy out fairly quickly, or do you feel like, okay, I'm gonna have to go the distance, so I'm not gonna go, wilding, swinging, and then not get caught. What's the kind of a strategy going to a boxing match against an opponent? Whether you think, okay, I'm gonna go for KO, or I have to go long distance with this guy, 12
It
rounds.
it varies who the opponent is and how the fight goes. This is boxing, super unpredictable, and I kind of just go with the flow and see what happens.
Wow, that's a big knockout right there. One of your many, many highlights. We're going to be posting it out there. What is your favorite punch that you think you're like, okay, I will always use this punch to knock out anybody. I can rely on this, punch.
I really don't have a favorite punch, but if I had to choose one, it would probably be my jab.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
jab, 1, 2,
yeah,
1, 2. Okay, that's
yeah.
wonderful. I want to kind of go back to when you became like started as a boxing. Was there any point in life where you thought, I hate to use this term, but like give up and say, okay, maybe I want to play baseball or basketball or, like any other sports growing up because boxing was, not something you wanted to do something else?
No, not at all. When I started boxing, I was very good at it. Um, watching on TV, reading articles, I saw how much money they made. Um, I see. I personally don't enjoy team sports, and I like to be independent. So boxing is perfect.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great to hear. It's Asian people like ourselves, we're always known to kind of like do things, harmoniously or,
Exactly.
act in groups. But, to have a strong independent mindset, like, I'm on my own, I take, 100% responsibility for everything that I say and do. I admire that mindset from coming from you and
Hmm.
all and everything. Um, you know, you're also, from my research, you were also a student studying criminal justice, correct?
I'm still a student.
Oh, you are still a student. Okay. Are
Yep.
you? How close are you to graduation?
I'm a junior right now. I'm currently taking 2 classes a semester. So I I can't tell you when I'm gonna get my bachelor's degree, but eventually I am. Slow and steady.
What school is it? Was it UC?
No, Cal State San Bernardino.
Oh, Cal State San Bernardino.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Yep. Yep.
great. Great. What made you choose the criminal justice for your degree?
Just something that's different. I can go wake up and do something new every day. I primarily don't like a desk job, so at the time that I thought that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Was there some sort of a backup plan for you if boxing didn't pan out or whatever it was?
Yeah, absolutely. My parents wanted me to go to school to have a plan B just in case if I
Mm-hmm.
were to ever get injured or anything like that.
Okay, okay. We're talking with Brandun Lee, the rising boxing prospect on the AA team here on the Barroom Network. I'm Stephen Nagishi. Ken Fang, my co-host, is off tonight. In case if you're just joining us, um, Brandon, let's talk about the system of the current state of boxing right now. Um, the American heavyweights, there hasn't been many. The lower division fighters who have gotten a lot of attention. These days. Do you feel like you're at a point right now where you want to capitalize this opportunity that you can definitely take on whoever is at your class at the light weight right now?
Absolutely. I'm a boxer, and when I'm boxing, it's just man on man, ego versus
Mhm.
ego. So at the end of the day, I'm here to conquer. I'm here to take over.
Okay. There's also one thing about the perception of boxing that the promoters and the fighters historically have kind of gotten argument over the money and stuff like that. You're currently being represented by Carl Moretti, if I'm not mistaken.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
is it who are you being represented right now?
no. I I personally wouldn't like to speak on that. We're currently next question, please.
Oh, my
Sorry.
apologies.
Yeah,
I did my best for the research, so I
yeah.
apologize. I hope I didn't anger you and then
No,
cause you
no,
any
no, no.
friction. If there was any settlements or stuff like that. So that's just the day in life of a boxing. Um, I have a question here from our one of our listeners. Do you live in Inland Empire right now in California?
No, I live in La Quinta, California. It's about
Oh, La Quinta. Okay.
15 minutes of Palm Springs, north or 15 minutes east of Palm Springs.
Oh, okay, okay. That's a nice an area, especially if except for the summertime when it gets triple digits, for you to stay in condition throughout the year, doesn't it?
Yeah, during the summer it's brutal, but during the winter, beautiful weather.
Oh, I bet it is. I've been there a long time ago, and I really enjoyed it when I was there as a youth. So, I used to live in Southern California in Torrance and
Oh,
uh,
nice,
Redondo Beach area myself.
that
So, I
nice.
have a real fun memories of SoCal right there. Um, when you became a pro fighter and living in SoCal, there's so much competition. There's such a strong Mexican boxers. Growing up, and there's so many real good fighters. Oscar De La Hoya comes to mind. When I was growing up in SoCal, he won the medal in the '92 Barcelona and became a super legend that he is right now. Um, what is it like to go up against the fighters of like a Mexican fighters, and do they talk trash to you when they leading up to the fight, or do they make fun of you because of your Asian heritage, that you have to kind of like channel that inner anger when you go up there and fight leading up to
No,
that
no,
stuff?
I don't think so because even if they do, I just ignore them and let's see if they're still talking in the ring.
Okay. Well, you let your knuckle do the talking when they
Yeah,
talk trash anyway, right?
yeah.
Good, good, good. When you go up there and fight, obviously, you've been perfect so far in your career thus far. You've obviously risen to many, many occasions, going from 4 rounds to 6 rounds to 8 rounds, and then now 12 rounds as a pro. What is the condition for you to like leading up to prepare for, whenever the weight class goes up, when the rounds go up? What kind of a training regimen do you have to do to prepare for yourself, for any challenges that comes in your way?
Just sometimes 3 times a day I work out for 8 to 10 weeks.
Hmm.
Early mornings.
Oh man, wow. What time do you normally get up? Just kind of like give us a taste of your day.
Um, Something it varies. Sometimes 4 in the morning, 4:30, 5 in the morning.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I go for a run, come back,
Mhm.
make breakfast, take a nap, do some homework, get
Okay.
lunch, work out again, go for a run again,
Wow.
and then maybe do some yoga. Yeah.
When did you start incorporating yoga into your training?
Um, I don't know. I just feel like after a hard day of work, I just need to stretch out, and I just stretch myself.
Mhm.
I don't do nothing crazy.
Okay. No downward doggy position and crazy
Yeah,
stuff like
nothing. Normal
that.
stretches.
Nice, nice, nice. Wonderful. Kind of going back to the state of boxing at the moment. Do you still live with your parents, or do
I
you have
do.
your own place right now
I,
through the?
I still live with my parents. Yep.
Oh, okay. I see. So,
Well, to be honest, I feel like my parents live with me.
but it's nice to have your parents backing you, everything, with the
Absolutely.
homeworking and all the other stuff that you have to deal outside of boxing as well. Um, I'm kind of curious to know, the fight money that you make. You don't have to give figures and stuff like that, but obviously to give us an idea of the money that you make through in the boxing, you know, it's not just the money entirely goes to you, whether it's through the Showtime, the promotions and the TVs and stuff like that. Some of the money has to go to your trainers and anybody that is in your team, correct?
Yeah, but my father's my trainer, so I
I
got
can
family.
see why your father is a trainer
I
and
got
everything.
I got family discount.
That's good. That's good. Wonderful. I want to talk about your last fight. You fought Zach Ochoa, which you won in decision in 12 rounds. You fought at the AT&T Stadium, which is, if you're an NFL fan, we all know that's where Dallas Cowboys play, which is like 90,000 plus. It's a massive stadium. Is it kind of weird to fight in such a massive stadium, even though they've had many, many fights in that stadium before, given how massive it is? And does it kind of like feel different?
Not at all. If anything, it just like, motivates me more to work harder. So one day I get headline at that massive stadium.
That's good. That's good. So you fought last month, which was very close to your birthday,
Birthday.
April 25th. So I wanted to first of all congratulate, and I'm sorry for not saying that a little bit earlier.
It's
But
okay.
so after a fight, what do you do to kind of decompress yourself? You having come off a terrific win, so close to your birthday. You're 23, you're young, you're undefeated. You feel like you're on top of the world. What do you do to kind of like decompress yourself after winning a fight like that?
I'll go to Orange County, hit all my favorite restaurants, go to Vegas, go go
Do
have
you
some fun
gamble?
out there. I do, yeah.
Oh, what's your favorite game? What's your favorite?
Either craps or blackjack.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You do pretty well there.
Yeah, I do decent on a good day.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you fought in April. When do you think you'll be fighting next?
Hopefully I'm back in August. I should be getting a date real soon.
Being a young boxer that you are, do you recover more quickly even after going 12 rounds and say, okay, I can fight within 3 to 4 months? Or do you feel like I need to take a little bit of time here and there depending on the situation?
No, not at all. I'm young. I'm only 23 years old. I'm young. It's time to work hard now and chill later.
Okay. When do you hope to become when do you think you'll be able to get a title shot? Within next year or so?
Absolutely, next year. I'll be 24 years old. It's time to get a strap around my belt.
Mm-hmm. What weight class are you looking at? What opponents are you thinking about? Okay, coming after. Okay, I can get this guy. I'm going to call out this guy and say, hey, I'm coming after your belt.
All of them. I'm gonna be fighting at 140, and anybody can get it.
Oh, 140. That's a junior welterweight, right?
Correct. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Have you been watching how competitive that weight class it is? And I believe Valdez and Shakur Stevenson had a massive fight recently. Can you see yourself being up there and maybe go toe to toe with those guys and say, okay, yeah, I can get these guys for sure?
Totally different weight class.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah. It's okay.
You're not there
class.
yet, right? You're not just there yet.
No. They fight at 130. I fight at 140.
Oh, I apologize. So junior welterweight, but that has still historically been a huge weight class loaded with many great boxers who have gone through great things. And I certainly hope that you will be able to become a super champion very, very soon. Obviously, the reason we had you on tonight was to kind of talk about the state of our community. The API Heritage Month, obviously the entire month of May, and from your perspective, Brandon, what does the AAPI Heritage Month mean to you as somebody who is biracial, has a Asian side as well as the Mexican side?
I mean, it means the world to me because this month is for us, and I feel like I'm currently representing the Asian community. Growing up, I looked up to Bruce Lee, and unfortunately, he passed away way too early. So nowadays, a lot of kids don't even know who Bruce Lee is. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, one day I can just do even a quarter of what he did, and I'll be happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously Bruce Lee being a legendary a fighter, and you being a different fighter, I'll buy with the knuckles. I'm sure that there will be a lot of Asian kids out there who will look up to you as somebody who represents, our community in a positive way. You're being out there, not necessarily thinking about representing our community when you're up in that ring, but that there is always going to be talks about, the racism that has skyrocketed during the pandemic, and that the stigma that our community, as well as Asian Americans, have to deal with, that you have to overcome all of them one by one, and that you are doing so much to our community, and just so much. I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing out there, because it's a brutal sport. Because one punch can really change the fortune of a fighter out there. And it's a lonely world out there in sometimes, isn't
Absolutely. It? Absolutely. No one can help you but yourself.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Well, Brandon, listen, I want to thank you so much for taking time to do this interview. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It's fantastic to have a real AAPI athletes out there. We have, in Southern California already, Shohei Ohtani representing the Angels, in the Japanese community. You're representing the Korean community. And,
I'm representing all the Asians. None of these Asian athletes are pushing the Asians as hard as I'm pushing. As far as athletes, movie stars, and any influencers in the Asian community.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you one question before we let you go. You just mentioned about how hard you're pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
When we started this show, this was obviously the idea. We wanted to interview AAPI people working in the sports and entertainment industry, which unfortunately there are not a lot of them. Even if you saw, there aren't many in TV, with the exception of, very few. Like, for example, Mina Kimes and Pablo Torres of the world, and then you see ESPN. I'm sure you watch ESPN a lot. Whether it's NFL or non-boxing, shows in your training or in between your trainings. And one of the things we brought up was that they're both of them, with all due respect, weren't doing enough. Do you feel like, not necessarily calling them out, but there are certain people within the community that aren't doing enough? And
absolutely, 100%. And no, let's call them out, because I feel like we have this platform where we can motivate the youth, we can motivate the young kids to go out there and chase their dreams. But at least that's the way I look at it. Maybe not everyone looks at it the way I do, but I feel like that's why I carry all the Asians on my back, because I want all of us to succeed.
Mm-hmm. I truly feel the same way too, because historically, our community, we've had some bickerings in the past because due to the native lands war histories and all that kind of stuff. And us Asian communities, we also want to work, with a wider group of audience, Mexican, Latinos, as well as African Americans. We've hadn't had a real good dialogue or history with the other minority groups, for whether it's geopolitical or economical reasons, that all of us have to put that down and work for a common goal and creating equality and justice for every minorities in this country. Am I right?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all believe the same, and we are all one.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, Brandun Lee, rising prospect in the boxing world, I want to thank you, and I really want to thank you for taking this time. Obviously, you do a lot of interviews with Showtime Boxing, ESPN, among other things. And Brandun, I want to keep on rooting for you, and hopefully when you become a champion at this time next year, we hope to have you again, and you can flash off that beautiful golden belt that you have won with your
Absolutely.
fist. And we wish you continued success, and we look forward to having you on the show again very, very soon. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Peace.
Thank you so much, Brandun.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Brandun Lee. And we'll take a quick break and come back with the next guest, or have a bit of a monologue in between. The AA team will continue right after this.
Zim, Joe, Vinny, and Gonzo. Join these White Sox fanatics every Monday night for the South Burbs Hitmen. You're going to be treated to great guests, top analysis, smart debates. South Burbs Hitmen with Zim, Joe, Vinny, and Gonzo, only on the Barroom Network.
Hell Assault, since I came here, has been expanded twice, and both times after we were gone, by the way. So we never got it. But I mean, it was tiny.
Do you think that Olin Kreutz would politely ask you to leave the weight room because it was so crowded?
I told you what Olin used to say to me.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
No, and that was at 5 o'clock when there's no players around.
Olin,
Gabriel, get the f out of my weight room.
Oh,
And I go,
oh, I think I got a commercial here.
The past year has seen a 1,900% rise in anti-Asian hate crime in New York City alone, with 2,800 incidents reported across 47 states and Washington, D.C. This is a national crisis, and we need your help to call it out. Call it a crime. Call it what it is: racism. Let's stand up together against hate. Learn more at stopaapihate.org.
And welcome back to the Double A team. I'm Stephen Negishi. Ken Fang is off for personal reasons. I'm doing solo. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I hope you all enjoyed the interview with the rising prospect, Brandun Lee, tonight. And I tell you, Brandun is somebody that I've followed for quite some time. And, we really, really worked hard to try and get him on the show because there was obviously a confusion with who to contact. And I reached out to Mike Coppinger, ESPN's boxing writer, who used to write for The Athletic previously. And I reached out to him. I DM'd him. And he was kind enough to point out to the right person for the contact information. I want to thank Steve Pratt for VZ PR for help setting this up for tonight. And I hope you enjoy it. And we hope to continue to bring more Asian American athletes who are available to come on and talk to us. Anyway, speaking of Asian American athletes, our next guest actually created a special website dedicated to the coverage of AAPI athletes that, to be quite honest, I didn't know. Obviously, not many of us are, mainstream. Only a handful of times, maybe in the Summer and Winter Olympics, you might have seen, Chloe Kim, Nathan Chan, and stuff like that. But joining us is the founder of AMAZN HQ, and he also works for the ESPN's LA headquarters in the media division. Pranav Iyer, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. We've kept in contact for quite some time, and we really appreciate you taking time. I know you're working at the ESPN LA office as of right now tonight, right?
Yeah, so currently working remotely, but based out of LA, yeah.
That's wonderful. That's the LA where Neil Everett and Stan Barrett do the Los Angeles shows most nights at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific time, correct?
Exactly.
Can you tell us what your role is with the ESPN LA?
Yeah, so I'm a social media specialist at ESPN. I started about 10 months ago, back in July. And basically, help produce content for the different ESPN social media platforms, whether that be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And, I created a lot of different content, help lead a lot of different avenues. Like, for example, this month, I'm helping lead AANHPI content for the month, obviously because it's May. In the past, I'm also like the college basketball lead. So I helped, lead the content plan for our March Madness coverage in March. And then I also help lead on the state coverage. So, bringing back like archival content, for example, if like Kobe had this, 60-point game or his 81-point game against Raptors, whenever that anniversary is, I'm kind of in charge of like helping bring the best ways to bring back that type of content.
Oh, I see. You don't necessarily write the article itself, correct?
No, I don't. So I don't write articles on ESPN.com. So it's just on the social media platforms.
I see. So there's a lot of digital marketing, A/B testing, and a lot of analytics involved in trying to draw people to that article, whether it's through Facebook, Twitter, and then even on the ESPN.com's platform, correct?
Yeah, definitely. So there's part of the goal is to help channel some of that traction back towards the website, towards the broadcast. But also still a lot of stuff that we do is, we do produce a lot of original content. Like, for example, I was at the Warriors game 6 just a few days ago at Chase Center. Because it was an ESPN game, so I was out there capturing a bunch of content during the game as well. So it's interesting to see because I came into this thinking why would someone want to work in social media? It's like the fluff of journalism, or so I thought. But it's I think we're coming to a point in our time of our society where a lot of people, especially in my generation, and even more so the younger generation, that's oftentimes the only place they receive news, right?
Right.
So in a sense, social media, people working in social media are kind of that frontline, are working some of that frontline duties. So it's oftentimes you can, if something goes wrong, you are the ones that it's a very high pressure type of thing, which can be fun at times, in working the NBA finals, things like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot that goes involved that is revolved around it.
What was your background in college that led to this job?
Yeah, so I was a double major in broadcast journalism and kinesiology. So 2 very separate things, but I guess in a sense, I tied back to the sports world. And I also played football as well. So kind of did those 3 things. But yeah, I kind of figured out a little bit later on into my college career that I wanted to go down the journalism route. And kind of did some internships at different places like Spectrum Sportsnet, Fox Sports, and then at ESPN the summer after my senior year to kind of just go down that route and see what we can make out of it, because I know there's obviously a ton of opportunity to create change through reporting.
Wow, I tell you, working for ESPN, that's a dream job for a lot of sports fans, myself included, even at my ripe age of mid 40s. But we have Pranav Iyer joining us, working as a social media specialist at ESPN in LA, and also AMAZN HQ, which is a special website dedicated for the Asian American athlete coverage in the as we talk Asian American Heritage Month, which we will get to in a moment. But you said you played football, correct? At Chapman College? Was it
Correct.
Chapman?
Chapman University, yeah.
Chapman University. Wow. What position did you play?
I played free safety and corner.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So how big are you, if you don't mind me telling me, when you were playing
well,
football?
now I'm a lot smaller. Back when I was playing, I was I was pretty much 6 feet, and I was 175, 180 pounds. Now that I'm done with my playing career, I've lost 25 pounds since then. So it's definitely for me, being built the way I was, I'm definitely not built to be a football player. So I had to kind of do everything to eat as much food as I could, growing up in a vegetarian household and things like that. So there's a lot of things that I had to do to even be at the bare minimum of not being someone who's a liability to injury type thing. But yeah.
I work in IT, and as you can imagine, I have a lot of Indian colleagues, and they're obviously, spent some time in India, Hyderabad and Bangalore for work more than 10 years ago. And obviously they are very strict about their diets and stuff like that. So I can understand the, the struggles that you went through. And, it's obviously a huge position. You basically have to cover the receiver. You have to read defense, offense. You're the center fielder, playing safety, having to watch the receivers and the tight ends that comes in your way and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Was that the position kind of like you were chosen to play, or you decided you enjoy hitting people and then you wanted to play that position because it seemed to fit your size more?
That's funny. So it's actually my dream was always to be a quarterback. That's how I got into football. It's the dumbest story ever. But back in 3rd grade, I was doing this random, you know how they do book reports every few months or whatever. For that one, the topic was supposed to be a biography book report. I was just randomly looking through the library and found this book about this guy named Brett Favre, out of all people. For some reason, I decided to choose his book, and I don't even know what it was that stuck out to me, because there's not that much that is very interesting about Brett Favre. but that's how I started playing football, because I grew up in an area where not many people like played football at all. So that's like how I fell in love with it. And I always had the dream, like I wanted to be the first like first Indian American quarterback in the NFL. That was like what I always said. But got to the point where, in high school we ran triple option. I was not built to be a triple option quarterback. So I ended up, focusing on some of the other positions, and I found, kind of like my calling as a defensive back. I was never the fastest, never the most athletic, but I think by the time my senior year hit, I found a way to like use my mind, my knowledge for the game, and my knowledge for kind of just like situational awareness, like angles, things like that, to kind of use that to my advantage. And obviously, like, being a smaller person myself too, it was interesting because going into my senior year, I like dislocated my finger at a college camp the summer before. So just like a couple of weeks before camp started. So I had to learn at that point how to tackle without my hands. And that's like when I became kind of like, more like I had to master the craft of just cutting people, and obviously I found out later that like that is very, very much to my advantage, because I'm not going to be able to drive these, 220 pound running backs or whatever, like to the ground, but I can use their own leverage against them and kind of make that easier on me. So that's kind of like how I like found my calling, and like it was definitely a great experience being able to go through the high school level, and then being able to play at the college level. Obviously not like such a high level, but like as an Indian American, I take a lot of pride in just being able to have the opportunity and be able to put on for the community, because for where I'm from, there's not a lot of people that have played college football. So it definitely does mean a lot.
Yeah, you were great until you mentioned Brett Favre, which is a no-no amongst the us Chicago sports fans, and especially we're so bear-centric there. But we'll let that pass, and bygones be bygones. We're talking with
I'm not
Pranav
a
Iyer.
Packers fan, so that's all good.
We're talking with Pranav Iyer of AMAZN HQ and ESPN LA social media specialist. Did you play anybody famous when you were playing in high school, or whether in college?
No, well, definitely not in college, because it's Division III football. There's not many. We had a few players that went on to play pro, but but they're not like, obviously they don't become like the biggest names usually.
Yes.
In high school, I played against like obviously a bunch of different like Division I players.
Yeah.
If I was like a year older, I would have played against Vita Vea.
Oh, okay.
But
Polynesian.
He was like a little bit before my time by like a year or two.
Okay.
Because I think like either the year after or 2 years after he left is when we played their team. But yeah, I played against like a few Division I players. Like like I said again, like from where I'm from, like my area, like it's not very known for football, not very known for most of these mainstream American sports. So it was definitely kind of like you had to kind of everything you had to do is kind of like on your own regard. You didn't really have that type of like, you weren't like, it wasn't built. We didn't have like a built-in Pop Warner league, even. So like a lot of people on our team like never even started playing competitive like tackle football until like high school, because that just wasn't an opportunity. So yeah.
Where in Southern California are you living? Was it Orange County, that area?
When I was in college, I lived in Orange County. And then
high school, where did you play?
So in high school, I grew up in the Bay Area.
San Francisco.
I grew up in Cupertino, like near San Jose.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Cupertino, went to this high school called Monte Vista High School. Basically like an area where a lot of it's mostly like kids like me, where it's like first generation Asian American kids that have like immigrant parents, and a lot of them work in the tech industry. So it's like it's definitely a different. It was cool that I got to be around a lot of people that looked like me and stuff like that. But it is different in the sense that it's not representative of kind of like what you'll see when you go out to the rest of the world. When I went out to Chapman, that was a very big culture shock. So yeah,
that's a private university, right?
Yeah, it's a private university. It's in Orange County.
OC, yeah.
Yeah, so those two things, like just in itself, that'll tell you a little bit about it.
Were there a lot of rich, pompous kids who, acted the wilding and stuff like that when, not necessarily your teammates, but any of your, classmates or people that you attended school with?
Yeah, no, there definitely was like prominent, like, there was a lot of like, whether it be like, kids of celebrities or, just people in that space, there was a lot of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think it all depended on like who you surrounded yourself with. And I think I was able to like find those groups that, like really mattered to me and the people that kind of like I was able to relate to. So that definitely helped.
I bet it was, and I'm sure that helped you really get through a place like Chapman. Given what you just explained there, college itself is quite a challenge for many people. Going to a private institution like that must be, even, you're really raising up the antics and stuff like that. There. I want to talk about your family and upbringing. Being a first generation Indian American yourself. Were your parents supportive about, what you were doing, especially, playing playing football, such a violent sports that I'm sure a lot of Indians aren't really familiar with. And then, they were probably more concerned about your grade and, go to med school, lawyer, blah, 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 typical, Asian parents stereotype stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so I think I always like to preface this with, it's like, our parents like only knew what they experienced when they were growing up and like the environment that they were raised in. So like for me, it took a lot of time for it to get to that point where like, my mom understood that. Just because, it's like, I think it's important to know like that, like, in most of these big Asian countries, right? Like, especially like, India, China, if you're going to pursue sports, you're oftentimes funneled into that from a really early age. And it's not done in like at the same time as like, there's no like, oh, I'm going to do sports and I'm going to be like a academic. You can't do both at the same, or in most cases it's hard to do both. It's kind of, you have to devote yourself completely to one or the other. It's like they put you in these academies. It's always for like training for the province team, the national team, that type of thing. That's like the mentality there when it comes to sports.
Sure.
In most cases. So I think that part of that is like, like a reason why it's like, it's hard to see it from more than just the hobby. The other part too is like, our parents are coming like from, halfway across the world. Oftentimes it's like, it's that saying like, coming across the world with like $3 in my pocket, right?
Sure.
They're coming here with nothing, not knowing anything other than what got them here and what they've been able to do to see success, what they've been able to see their family do to see success. So that's why you often hear these things like, oh, like all Asian parents want you to be like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, those things. It's not necessarily because like that's necessarily what they want. It's more so because oftentimes that's all they know, like in terms of what can lead to success. So I think for that, like it took a long time, in high school, like, as I started going through it, like, and I had a passion like for playing at the next level, things like that. I definitely had to go through some roundabouts and things like that I don't necessarily like wish I did, but I think it was kind of necessary at the time to kind of pursue what I believed in and what I was passionate about. But I think after I got to college and things like settled down a little bit there, and especially now, I think my mother was able to like understand like, oh, this is why it's important to you. And then, oh, like there's other people that are doing this too. It's not just you. And there's other people that are doing this and, doing well academically as well. So I think it took a while, but it's all about kind of like, learning multiple different types of perspectives.
Yeah. I'm sure you were fortunate enough to obviously be in the States where, academics and sports, managing, while it might be very, very difficult, it can be achieved, especially, as diverse as it is in this country, when, just how big sports is in this country as well. Exactly. We're talking with Pranav Iyer, our second guest on the AA team here on the Barroom Network. Thanks for joining us. What about your parents right now? You're obviously working in ESPN and you have your own website devoted to Asian American athletes. What are they saying right now to you now that you were done with college and playing football, and you could probably get go on to become like a, I don't know, the IT doctor, whatever they were hoping you to become, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my mom is happy that it's like, I think like, when you do these things, like they know, like for example, like I remember like whichever, like I think it was like Hassan Minaj was talking about it, is like, it's like oftentimes his parents didn't understand what he's doing with comedy, but when he made it onto like this specific show that they used to watch when they were growing up, that's like, oh, you made it, right? So like for me, I think like my family understands it's like, when you think of sports, you think of like ESPN. So like I think from that, like my mother saw success out of that. The thing that she didn't see success out of is like like working in sports media. There's not a big paycheck that will ever come there unless you're like talent. So so
you're not a TV talent. You're not like Kevin Nagandi.
No.
Like you do the Sports Center or call games and interview athletes and stuff like that too. That's probably a little bit of difficulty to for them to understand as well, right?
Yeah. But then the other thing too is like I'm like with my media outlet. I think my mom was like happy that I was able to like do something that's like my own, like be entrepreneurial in that sense. There's a lot of stuff she doesn't understand just in terms of like it being social media, and she doesn't know too much about social media and like kind of like how that works and the opportunities that I've been able to get through that. So I mean, so it's definitely takes some time, but like I said, same thing with the football thing. It's just learning that new perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about your your baby. Is it AMAZN's HQ? Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, AMAZN HQ.
AMAZN HQ. Tell us about the website and where you got the inspiration on starting this website.
Yeah, so I started this back in December 2019. But the reason why I started it is obviously, when I was growing up, I always tried to do all the deepest dives into kind of like figuring out like, who can I look up to that looks like me? Has there ever been like an Asian American quarterback that has played in the NFL? Because that was my dream growing up. Or has there, just in any sports that I was just looking at. I was able to find like examples like Timmy Chang, people like that, Brandon Chillard. But oftentimes like to find these examples, it's like you have to be like someone like me who was like willing to do that deep research, to find like who these people are and find these examples. But most people aren't going to be like that, right? Because they're just going to assume that there's no one out there.
Sure.
So back in college in early 2019, I actually got this this scholarship through AAJA called the California Reporting Scholarship, just to kind of had this budget to work on this long form story about anything that I kind of wanted to, and I decided to do mine about Asian American, the rise of Asian Americans in basketball. It kind of delving into like Linsanity was nearly 10 years ago at that point. And kind of seeing like everyone always talked about like, oh, we assumed that like once Linsanity hit, we would see this huge wave of representation. Obviously we haven't quite seen that yet, so kind of delving into like what that true legacy has been and that true impact has been. So through that I was able to interview like 30 around 30 people from all different like walks of life, all different ethnicities, like Indian American, like Chinese American, Japanese American, just a lot of different people. And a lot of them, some of them were like pretty like public figures like Natalie Nakase. And but one thing I noticed through it all, no matter how like well known they were, everyone said that they always wanted to tell their story, but no one had ever asked them. Like telling their story in this way, telling their story about their heritage, about what it means to them to be an Asian American athlete, to be an Asian American in sports. No one ever asked them that. And to me, that like perplexed me. I was like, why? Like, why? That's like such a, obvious thing that a lot of people would care about. And especially, with the power to inspire, there was so much of that. So, after that story, I kind of like sat down for a little bit. And I was like, there's really a big gaping hole in kind of the media coverage for our community when it comes to sports. Because first of all, who's doing the media coverage? It's not people like us most of the time, right? And oftentimes, like for these stories, you're not gonna be able to understand its importance unless you are like someone from our community or you're tapped in with our community and you're able to hear them out, hear their stories, and hear what's important to them. And I don't think like as a society really did that enough. I think thankfully, we're doing that more with people like, like June Lee, like people like them who are kind of like telling these stories that like, should have been told like way back. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of like why I started it. I didn't really know what I was doing. So, I bought a camera, I bought a lens, I got a website and then social media handles and all of this stuff I had no idea how to do. Cause this is like before I was at ESPN, I had no idea about like how to run social media, things like that.
Sure.
But I kind of started it with a passion, started with like some knowledge about like the community. And it was during basketball season in 2019. And I just started off by like covering some of these, top high school Asian American basketball players in California. So that's kind of how it started. And, it's obviously like grown from then. A lot of things have happened since. And I think it's still got a long ways to go for sure. But I truly believe that like, what I'm doing at a somewhat local level, if that's able to be kind of magnified or amplified to a national level and maybe eventually an international level, there's a real impact that it can have to not only like just be a national media outlet. That's not what I only envisioned it to be. I want it to really be a way to like kind of change the way that we ourselves view our community, view our sports, but also like the way that society views us. Like when you hear the term Asian American athlete, what are you going to think? And how can we really change that? And that's kind of like the ultimate goal with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Since you work at the ESPN, do you envision maybe like, obviously working at ESPN, you gain so much knowledge, production, on-site, off-site, everything. Do you hope to incorporate that into that? What's the future goal of your website? And do you foresee maybe, aligning with the, like a major national media, even heck, you work at ESPN, maybe if ESPN wants to bolster their AAPI coverage in a separate, website, you already have Undefeated, which covers African-American issues, social, sports, and economic issues. Could your website become, like the engine for, AAPI coverage for ESPN?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that could happen. But I think one of the things when I've thought about like whether this can be something that like, gets acquired by a bigger media outlet, I think there's a lot of limiting aspects to that in terms of like I see this as starting as a media outlet, but I hope it to become a way to actually create tangible change. Like for example, like hosting like actual, like for example, for these athletes, hosting events where we can like force these recruiters and these coaches to like see these players that are just getting overlooked, giving them that tangible opportunity to, kind of flip that script. Those types of things. And, really having like not just a digital presence, but literally like a physical presence. I think that is something that I envision. And I do think that, if it, there's a lot of like limiting factors when it comes to like, if that becomes like, if it's like more an acquisition, but obviously, we're definitely far from that. So definitely thinking more so like in the now and kind of seeing like what we can do to kind of, bolster our coverage as it is now. And for example, next, I don't know if you know, but this Sunday, we're actually gonna be hosting our first AMAZN All-Star Showcase. Basically gonna be a showcase of California's top Asian American basketball talent. It's gonna be in Southern California. And it's like, that is like something that I'm hoping, like, I feel like it will be a great opportunity to like, I think the goal with this, just to obviously celebrate the seniors, but I think more so, bring together the community and be able to like, whether it be the kids, like being able to show them that like, oh, this is something I can be when I'm growing up, when I grow up later on. Or even for the older generation, being like, wow, like they're finally doing something for our community, that I wish I had when I was growing up. Because that's ultimately the reason why I'm doing this. I wish I had this. I'm doing something that I wish I had when I was growing up, because I know it would have made a huge difference for me. But I also know it would have made a huge difference for so many of my friends. Just because, a lot of my friends had so much more athletic potential than I did. But it got to a point, whether it be like in high school, that is like, okay, yeah, no, I think I just got to stop, just because it's my, either parental influence, either, peer influence, or like society telling them that like, oh, this is like not meant for you. Because, you know, I was told so many times, what am I doing chasing these football dreams as a skinny Indian American kid, right? But I think there's so much we can do to push forward that narrative so that these kids growing up don't have to feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't imagine how happy they are that you're heavily involved in such showcase, which is so common, in every sports, basketball, football, and baseball. But sometimes us Asian Americans are left out, sometimes because of the stigma and stuff like that, or maybe the coaches, primarily, still many of them old, white males, who have these, predominations about certain races into some degree, especially in the times that we live in. And I think it's important to educate the schools, the administrators, as much as we need to educate the coaches and the NCAA administrators to some degree, right?
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, Pranav, I really appreciate you having taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're at work right now, so I want to thank your ESPN LA bosses to allow this opportunity. We definitely would love to have you on again, to give us more updates on the website, to showcase your career. And we definitely love to have an opportunity to work with you, your website as well as our channels, in a collaborative fashion to help raise awareness of our community, as we still fight the stigma and the racism that's risen during the throughout this pandemic, which still unfortunately is ongoing. But nothing but the best. Wishing you continued success, and we look forward to speaking with you again down the road. Okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate all that you guys do to push forward the narrative for our community. So props to you guys.
Thank you so much. Those words really mean so much to us, and a continued success. And then we'll say hi to our colleague Ken, who couldn't be with us tonight, and I'm sure he would have killed to have this opportunity to come, but he couldn't come for personal reasons. And we hopefully next time Ken will be available to talk with you down the road. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again down the road. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pranav Iyer of AMAZN HQ and ESPN LA social media team with us tonight. All right, we'll take a quick break and come back with the final word on the AA team right after this.
Zim, Joe, Venny, and Gonzo. Join these White Sox fanatics every Monday night for the South Burbs Hitmen. You're going to be treated to great guests, top analysis, smart debates. South Burbs Hitmen with Zim, Joe, Venny, and Gonzo. Only on the Barroom Network.
And welcome back. The Southside Burb Hitman will be coming up right after this show at the top of the hour. Obviously, the guys have a lot to talk about, especially losing to the Red Hot Yankees, losing 3 out of 4. Stanton and Judge really mashed a lot of home runs, unfortunately. And, the White Sox fans are probably still steaming. And hopefully the guys at the show will help you ease those pains at the top of the hour. Alrighty. So the reason, Ken was not available tonight, we got a call from Ken late last night. In case of those of you who were not, under the rocks, there has been a lot of mass shootings this past week, most noticeably in the one in Buffalo, where 10 people were shot and killed at a supermarket. There was also an incident at a Bucks game, Milwaukee Bucks game. After the game was over, there was a shooting, unfortunately, and 20 people injured in the Celtics game, Game 6 last week. pertaining to our community, there was a shooting in Dallas that 3 people inside the Asian-owned hair salon were targeted. Now, initially, this was thought to be not a racially motivated one, but after a deep search, there have been several other incidents in the vicinity, which a suspect in the vehicle looked very, very similar to the one that happened last week at a hair salon in Dallas. So now they're looking into it as a possible hate crime as well. And one of the shooting that took place yesterday was at the Laguna Woods church. And this shooting where 1 people were killed and several people have been wounded. It turned out to be a Chinese immigrant shooting at a Taiwanese church because of the rising tension between China and Taiwan, I should say, as you can see in the article below there. So among the people who were wounded were Ken's aunt and uncle. As you can see here, Ken posted the update on his timeline this morning. And that's why Ken, unfortunately, were not able to attend the show this evening. I didn't mention that to Brandun Lee's representative or Pranav, and we just wanted to kind of let the show go. We wanted to talk about it at the very beginning of the show, but we kind of lost track of time, and the Brandon's interview at 7:45, 6:45 Central Time was very close, and we decided to just go on with the show and get to this part at the end of the show. And as you can see, thankfully, they're fortunate to be alive in good spirits. And, I wanted to dedicate the tonight's show, and I've said this to Ken just before we came on air tonight. We are dedicating this show to Ken and his aunt and uncle, who are doing very, very well tonight. And, our thoughts and prayers from the Barroom Network, myself, Aldo, and everybody who is watching this tonight. Please send thoughts and prayers to Ken and his aunt and uncle as they recover. And I cannot thank you. Ken, thank you for the sentiments. Ken, thank you so much. I know it's very, very hard for Ken to to have somebody so close. Being somebody so close to being shot, and I'm so happy for you, Ken, and all of us here at the network, and I'm just glad to hear that you and your family members are doing very, very well. Man, these shootings really leave us very, very depressed at times. It's so frequently happening in this country. It's it's easy to get so numb because it's such a regular regular occurrences, and when something like this happens to someone, and someone that someone so close is a victim, and especially another Asian Americans being shot at. Unfortunately, this is somewhat of a politically motivated shooting. Unfortunately, but anyway, I'm so happy that Ken is doing well. He's kind enough to join us, even in situations like this, and our thoughts and prayers goes out to you once again, and we hope to have you, in 2 weeks again, and we look forward to having you, Ken. I'm just so happy. Take as much time you need to, look out for your family members, your aunt and uncle, and we hope to have you back on again in 2 weeks. Now, the preview of our next show in 2 weeks on May 30th, we're having Marshall Cho, who is a Korean American head coach, a basketball coach, I should say, with the USA Basketball, as well as actor and director slash documentarian Brian Yang joining us. There was a conversation earlier about Pranav talking about Jeremy Lin and insanity. Brian was a person who was heavily involved in the filming and documentation of the film Insanity, which chronicles the rise of NBA basketball star Jeremy Lin. And we look forward to having both of them to talk about, what Jeremy Lin's rise meant to them, and and not just within the basketball community, but within our AAPI community. And we hope to have both of them talk together. And I reached out to Jeremy Lin last month, and obviously haven't heard back. And while it's obviously a long shot, maybe if we're lucky, we could have him, or if not, then we'll hope to have another guest, to talk about what insanity meant, and to all of us, especially within our community, as we close out May's AAPI Asian Heritage Month. Anyway, my name is Stephen Negishi. I want to thank you for joining us, and hey, Aldo's joining us to do the closing with me tonight. Aldo, how are you?
I'm great, Stephen, and I want to just applaud you sticking through this show yourself. I know it's been a very emotional week, not just with shootings involved with Ken's family, but just all of the news of the mass shootings that have just been piling up. We've had more than one mass shooting a week since this year began. And it's a very, very troubling thing in America today. I grew up in a very, very tough neighborhood where shootings were commonplace. We would hear gunshots as we were having dinner. We would hear ambulances running, going to the hospital at night while we were asleep. The crime, the area that I grew up in, the inner city of Chicago, was infested with crime. But now it truly does seem like things have been unleashed, and there's crime all over America, no matter where you live. And there is no doubt that most of it comes from hate groups. And FBI Director Chris Wray recently said this at a congressional hearing.
I will say that a majority of the domestic terrorism cases that we've investigated are motivated by some version of what you might call white supremacist violence, but it includes other things as well. I think the greatest terrorist threat to the homeland is the homegrown violent extremist. I will say that we take domestic,
foreign-inspired,
which is jihadist-inspired violence. That does not mean, by any stretch of the imagination, that we don't take domestic terrorism, including hate crime committed on behalf of some kind of white supremacist ideology, extremely seriously.
This is a huge problem. The problem of that we're facing now is that white supremacy has really gained traction during the previous president's administration, and we're not going to stop talking about it here on the Barroom Network. This needs to be highlighted. It needs to be showcased. And in some cases, some of our dear followers here on the Barroom Network who come in here to talk about sports and get away from the pressures, I think they need to hear it too. So I hope that they will join us. I was watching the numbers as when Stephen, when you started talking about this topic, I saw the numbers dwindle away because people didn't want to hear about the bad news that was going on. But I urge those people to give us some time to share some information and opinions about what is going on in our communities. And I think that they will find that we are all like-minded. We want peace. We want prejudice and the idea of white supremacy to go away. And the only way that we can begin to start that is by having honest conversations about it, have honest dialogue about it. And so this is not the first time nor the last time that we've talked about this topic, and we will continue to do so. And I applaud you, Stephen, and I applaud Ken. You've been one of the leaders in getting this done. And speaking of Ken, here he is right now. Ken, how are you? God bless you, brother.
Hi, how are you? I just want to, Stephen, thank you very much for your sentiments tonight. I really appreciate it. Aldo, thank you for giving me some time for tonight. Really appreciate that as well. Want to thank everybody for their kind sentiments on Twitter, for my uncle and aunt. And Nomad, we're here for those conversations as well.
Yes.
So I want to thank you all very much for, and Aldo, your very great words about the fact that why we started this show and why we're going to continue to talk about it. And Stephen, we're going to talk about it as well. But Stephen, thank you very much. Aldo, thank you. I just want to thank the viewers out there for, I know that, as I don't know if you heard, but we have a little bit of a thunderstorm out here in Rhode Island. So, but thank you very much for all of the sentiments. And, hopefully I'll be back in 2 weeks. I will say that I did see a video of my uncle today. He looks great. My aunt, being the very feisty person she was very proud to show off her bullet wound. That's her. It's just that's the way she is. Yeah. So I'm thankful that we have her here. I feel I just feel so. I just don't know what to say to the victims of the people in Buffalo. Also to the doctor who was killed yesterday in the church, who was trying to save people as well. And to anyone who has gone through this, as I was saying to somebody else, you don't think it affects you until it happens. And, to get the word yesterday about my uncle and aunt from my cousin after I left work yesterday, I was driving. I answered the phone through CarPlay, and I thought I was going to drive off the road. So it's something you never want to hear. But I'm thankful that of the news that about my aunt and uncle that they're fine. And I know that we have a show coming up, so I better get off the air. So I'm gonna give it back to you guys. But thank you very much and giving me the time for tonight. Really appreciate it, Aldo and Stephen. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
You got it, brother.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate you coming tonight on short notice. All right. Well, thank you so much. You heard from Ken. I really appreciate everybody for coming on and having these, conversations, no matter how tough it is. And hopefully we all learn from each other. And as much as we enjoy talking sports, obviously there are sometimes that issues that we cannot ignore, no matter how hard we try. On that note, I want to close the AA team tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Hopefully we'll see you then again. So long, everybody.
Thank you.